We have brand new NBC reporting. A source familiar with Donald Trump's private conversations says he has complained that while he's stuck in court, quote, no one is defending me. Now, earlier this week, his son Eric did attend the trial, but that remains the one and only appearance by a family member. He also has reportedly grumbled that there are no protesters outside supporting him. Again today, to our cameras, we only saw a few people outside. Let's bring in Sarah Matthews, who served as Donald Trump's White House deputy press secretary. Chuck Rosenberg, Duncan Levin, and Danny Cevallos are all still with me. Sarah, how focused do you think Donald Trump is on the actual number of people, whether they're family members inside the courtroom or the fact that in many days of this trial, the number of people outside supporting him are in single digits?
Yeah, Donald Trump is definitely paying close attention to this. Look, he's someone who's all about branding and optics, and he knows that it's not necessarily the best look that he hasn't had his family by his side during the trial, those first couple of weeks, that there aren't crowds of protesters outside supporting him. You know, he feeds off of that kind of energy. And so for that to not be assembled outside the courthouse is probably disappointing to him and putting him in a bad mood. And so then he's lashing out at aides. And that's why now this week you're seeing these folks come and support him and be by his side, whether it's aides or surrogates and family members. You noted Eric Trump came. And so I imagine that moving forward, that will be the case, that they'll continue to try to bring people to be around him so he feels a little bit less embarrassed about the situation.
Are you surprised it hasn't happened so far?
I mean, I guess I'm not necessarily surprised in terms of family. I think that, Melania, I wouldn't really expect her to be by his side during this trial. Look, she hasn't even campaigned with him yet. So I don't think when we're talking about a case where he made a hush money payment to a porn star just days after or had an affair with her and then paid her off because he had this affair just days after Melania gave birth to their son, I really wouldn't imagine that she wants to sit through a trial like this. And so I do think we'll see other family members probably make appearances and other aides, but I think I wouldn't imagine someone like her would come.
There have also been reports, Danny, not confirmed by NBC News, but other organizations who say Melania doesn't want him to go to jail, whatever their relationship is, whatever she feels about this trial. She doesn't want her son's father, her husband, in jail. I want to read you something, though, that jury consultant Robert Hirschhorn, who helped select the Robert Durst jury, told NBC News, quote, if this guy was smart, he would have his beautiful, smart wife in court every day. The fact that she's not there, that sends a message. You can do all the righteous indignation all day long, but you've got to walk the walk and talk the talk. Is there something to that?
I do. I think there is something to that. It's always helpful to have family in the courtroom. The jury is watching absolutely everything. To echo what Duncan said earlier, they watch everything so much so that it's often the loudest speech in the courtroom is from the people who aren't speaking at all. And that includes your client. That's why defense attorneys often tell their client, just sit there and look not guilty. Whatever that means, I'm not entirely sure. But I know what it doesn't mean. It means don't pull on my sleeve. Don't look panicked. Don't be annoying. The attorney's trying to try the case. Similarly, if you have a phalanx of family behind the defense table, that can be helpful. You know who knows this fact? Prosecutors. Go to any federal trial, and around closing argument time, you'll see the prosecutor side fill up with all the agents who testified to come in a show of support for the government and their pursuit of justice. We've got two former federal prosecutors here on the panel. They'll tell you that's exactly what they do because they know another rule that's existed since time immemorial, and that is that the jury is watching everyone. They're watching who comes to support each side. And if 10 FBI agents come to sit behind the government, that looks good for the government. If you're the defense and you have mom, dad, wife, kids there, it looks good for the defense. Can we measure that statistically? Probably not, but it's just something we've known forever.
So I'm remembering when Danny's talking, Chuck, that I once covered a trial where when lawyers would go up to the bench for, a little bit of a discussion, often the jurors were looking at the defendant, who was a convicted serial killer, and he would always be doing the New York Times crossword puzzle. And you could almost see people making note of that. That was not how they viewed him given his background and the fact that he was a serial killer. Trump lawyers are trying to, and I'm not making a comparison with this case, except to the point of how jurors watch, right? And we have been led to believe, NBC News is reporting, that now Donald Trump has a stack of papers before him, which he marks up during testimony and brings out to cite during remarks to the press. When lawyers huddle with the judge at the bench, one attorney often remains at the defense table, so Trump isn't seen sitting alone, which some have said make him look small, whoever the defendant is. But let me ask you specifically in the case of Donald Trump, are these things important? Are they things that jurors pay attention to?
Well, let me be the third person to say that jurors watch everything, Chris. And I know that firsthand because I used to get reports back from the court security officer that my suit wasn't pressed and my shoes weren't shined. In fact, my suit was never pressed and my shoes were never shined, so it wasn't really a surprise to me. Putting that aside, I think that we spend too much time thinking about sort of the theatrics of a case. I have never asked federal agents to come watch my closing. They're welcome if they want. The courtroom's open. I don't think it helps me. I don't think it hurts me. So I respectfully disagree with Danny on this. I used to go often, if I could, if I was free, to watch the closing arguments of my colleagues because I was interested, because I could learn from them. And you watch what other prosecutors do, and you watch what other defense attorneys do, and you try and become better at your craft. But, you know, what color tie you wear, who you arrange behind the defendant, whether he's doing a crossword puzzle in pen or in pencil, I think all of that at the end of the day is beside the point. I do get the fact that we try and control the things that we think we can control. I don't know that we're as good at it as we hope to be.